Before we start, I need you to understand something. Everything you're about to see was captured on camera. Real cameras, real footage, real moments that should have a simple explanation, but don't. 5 things caught on camera that scientists, investigators, and government agencies have studied for decades and failed to explain. Some of this footage was handed to police as evidence. Some of it was studied by NASA. Some of it was classified by governments and only released years later. And in every single case, the conclusion was the same. We don't know what this is. Stay until the end, because the last case was photographed by NASA, has been orbiting Earth for 13,000 years, and not one government on this planet has ever claimed it. Hessdalen Valley, Norway, 1981. Farmers and residents began reporting something strange in the sky. Lights, not ordinary lights, glowing orbs of white, yellow and red, moving silently across the valley at impossible speeds, sometimes hovering completely still for hours, sometimes shooting across the sky faster than any known aircraft, and then disappearing without a trace. At first, people assumed it was military activity. The Norwegian government investigated. The military had no aircraft in the area, no satellites, no drones, nothing. And yet the lights kept coming, every single night. Scientists from across Europe arrived to study the phenomenon. They set up cameras, radar equipment, spectrometers. They measured electromagnetic fields. They analyzed the light spectrum. They recorded everything. And what they found made the mystery deeper. The lights were real, physical objects, not reflections, not weather phenomena, not aircraft, real objects emitting real light, with properties that matched nothing in known science. Project Hessdalen was launched in 1983, a formal scientific investigation that is still running today. Over 40 years later, hundreds of scientists have studied the lights. Thousands of hours of footage have been recorded, and the official scientific conclusion in 2026 is the same as it was in 1981. We don't know what they are, and every single night, over that Norwegian valley, they keep appearing. A family home, suburban America, 2019. The family had installed a security camera system throughout their house. Motion activated, every door locked, every window secured. The parents went to bed at 11 p.m. At 11:47 p.m., the camera in the hallway activated. There was a figure standing at the end of the hall, completely still, facing the bedroom door. The figure stood there for 3 hours and 12 minutes, without moving, without making a sound. At 3:01 a.m., it was gone. No door had opened. No window had been breached. The alarm had never triggered. The figure had simply vanished. Police were called the next morning. They reviewed every second of footage. They checked every entry point, every door, every window, every vent. Nothing had been opened. Nothing had been disturbed. The alarm system showed no breaches. The security company analyzed the footage frame by frame. The figure was real. Not a glitch. Not a reflection. Not a shadow. A real physical presence, standing in that hallway for over 3 hours, that had entered and exited a completely secured home, without triggering a single sensor. The family moved out 3 days later. The new owners installed additional cameras. Nothing has been captured since, but the original footage was handed to investigators as evidence, and to this day, nobody has explained how it got in, or how it got out. Chicago, Illinois, November 22nd, 1987. It was a normal Sunday evening. WGN television was broadcasting the evening news. Thousands of viewers were watching across Chicago. And then, the signal was hijacked. For about 30 seconds, a figure appeared on screen. wearing a Max Headroom mask, a popular character from 1980s television. The figure was moving erratically, making strange sounds, laughing, and then the signal returned to normal. Engineers at WGN assumed it was a technical glitch, but 2 hours later, it happened again, this time on a different channel, WTTW, the public broadcasting station, and this time, it lasted much longer. The second broadcast lasted 90 seconds. The figure in the mask spoke in distorted tones, made references to television shows, held up strange objects, and ended the broadcast in a way that disturbed everyone who saw it. The FCC launched an immediate investigation. Hijacking a broadcast signal is a federal crime in the United States. It carries a fine of up to $100,000 and up to a year in prison. The FCC deployed its full investigative resources. They analyzed the signal. They traced the frequency. They interviewed witnesses. And they found nothing. No equipment was ever recovered. No suspects were ever identified. No charges were ever filed. The person or people who hijacked 2 live television broadcasts in one of America's largest cities on the same night were never found. Almost 40 years later, the Max Headroom hijacking remains the only unsolved broadcast signal intrusion in American history. Carlisle, England, May 23, 1964. Jim Templeton was a firefighter. He took his young daughter Elizabeth to a meadow near Solway, Firth, to take some photographs. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. The meadow was completely empty. Just Jim, his daughter, and the open countryside. He took several photographs of Elizabeth, standing in the grass, picking flowers, playing in the afternoon sun. When the photographs were developed, Jim saw something that made his blood run cold. Standing directly behind his daughter, in one of the photographs, was a figure in a white spacesuit, facing away from the camera. Jim had not seen anyone in that meadow. His wife, who was nearby, had not seen anyone. The meadow had been completely empty, but the camera had captured something that shouldn't have been there. Kodak, the photography company, offered a reward to anyone who could prove the photograph was faked. Nobody ever claimed it. The photograph was analyzed by multiple independent experts. No evidence of tampering was ever found. The British government investigated. The Cumberland police investigated. Both concluded the photograph was genuine. 2 men claiming to be government agents visited Jim Templeton shortly after. They drove him back to the meadow. They asked him detailed questions about what he had seen that day. And then they left, without identifying themselves, without explaining why they came. Jim Templeton spent the rest of his life insisting he had no explanation. He died in 2011. The photograph has never been explained, and the figure in the white spacesuit has never been identified. And the most disturbing of all, this one wasn't caught on a security camera, or a television broadcast, or a family photograph. This was caught on camera by NASA in space in 1998 during the Space Shuttle Endeavour mission. NASA cameras captured an unidentified object in polar orbit around Earth. Dark, metallic, roughly L-shaped. It wasn't a piece of space debris. It wasn't a satellite from any known nation. It wasn't a natural object. It was something that had no business being there. And the deeper investigators looked, the stranger it got. When researchers investigated the history of the object, they found something that defied all logic. In 1899, Nikola Tesla reported receiving a strange repeating signal that he believed came from space. In 1928, astronomers across Europe reported strange delayed radio echoes coming from an unknown source in orbit. In 1954, US Air Force radar detected 2 unknown objects in polar orbit, at a time when no nation on Earth had launched a single satellite. The first satellite, Sputnik, wasn't launched until 1957. So what was orbiting Earth in 1954? What was sending signals in 1899? And what did NASA photograph in 1998? The object has been given a name: the Black Knight satellite. It has been photographed multiple times, studied by multiple agencies, and the official conclusion from every government, from every space agency, from every scientific body that has investigated it, is complete silence. Not denial, not explanation. Silence, because some things are better left unexplained. 5 things caught on camera. 5 mysteries studied by scientists, investigators, and governments. 5 cases where the footage was real, the evidence was undeniable, and the explanation simply did not exist. The Hessdalen Lights, still appearing every night over a Norwegian valley, still unexplained after 40 years. The figure that entered and exited a secured home without triggering a single alarm. The Max Headroom Hijack, the only unsolved broadcast intrusion in American history. The Solway Firth Spaceman, photographed standing in an empty meadow where nobody was standing. And the Black Knight satellite, orbiting Earth for 13,000 years. Photographed by NASA, claimed by nobody, explained by no one. 5 cameras captured 5 things that should not exist. And yet, there they are. Permanent, undeniable, unexplained. The most terrifying part? These are just the 5 we know about. If this kept you up at night, you're exactly where you belong. Subscribe to Night Trace. New dark mysteries uploaded every day. Drop a comment. Which case disturbed you the most? The Hessdalen Lights, the Intruder, the Hijack, the Spaceman, or the Black Knight satellite? And turn on notifications, because what's coming next was searched for by your government and buried